What's up, Warriors? Welcome back to the Battlefield of the Mind. My name is Rick, the creator of the Warriors Way mindset, and I'm with Brad Lea. And if you don't know who that is, he'll be dropping bombs on you just like his podcast itself. One thing that's fun about both Brad and myself, that if you say both of our names quickly, it sounds like one word. So that's pretty fun. Rick Yee, Brad Lea, we got those names, man. It's kind of funny.
That is.
So, Brad, jump on in. We normally would have to do introductions, but I don't think you need one. It's good to have you on the show. Feel free to at least say something on your mind, and let's start kicking ass together, dude.
Buddy, I'm just glad to be here. I like the brand. I like the format, and I'm excited to freaking hopefully maybe drop some bombs and bring some value to your listeners.
So, just so people who don't know, because some of my people do live in their own universe, and they're not in the business world at all. They don't understand necessarily certain elements of who people are. Give them the short rundown, and then let's kind of roll from there. Because I got a couple cool questions for you.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the short rundown is I'm an entrepreneur by the truest sense of the word. You know, that word basically means someone who takes larger than normal financial risks. I dropped out of high school at 16 years old because my dad kicked me out of the house for not keeping my word and mowing the lawn. I learned the hard way my entire life up until about the age of 30. I was 100% out for me and me alone. Everything was about me. And I tried to, crush life focused on me. What could I get out of it? And then at 30 years old, I helped somebody transform their life financially and otherwise. And it made me feel good, as soft as that sounds. And so I decided, man, I want to start helping people. So I quit my job, my career really, and I formed a company to go out and help people. And literally looking back, that's the pivotal moment that things started happening when I started to, stop focusing on myself and start focusing on helping others. So since then, I'm 55 years old, 25 years later, I've got several successful companies, 8-figure, growing. And I also have a social media presence. Some people would call me an influencer, but, I don't do it for a living. I'm not, a content creator. I post what I do online. So I've amassed a couple million followers here and there. And, I'm asked to speak on stages now and talk mainly about entrepreneurship, business, and life. That's it. And then I have a podcast that's pretty highly rated. And I just bring on people and talk about, challenges and situations. And hopefully the listeners can, pick up things that will help them through their life. So ultimately, dude, listen, my mission in life is to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it, because I believe that the reason people aren't successful is they don't have the right information or they don't have the right relationship. And that's what it boils down to. So that's my mission, is to get the information to the people that need it.
I love what you're doing. You said a couple of things too that are going to be very useful. First, I want to get into, because I think that you're very right with the relationship thing, because like that's a big issue right now, especially with humans. Right into the polarization element of things, of like men and women should never be friends and all this stuff. You're like, no. You got to make business dynamics. Hold on, slow down. There are unhealthy versions and healthy versions. Now, have you had to run into this in the business world where like people are trying to put in their fears and doubts and insecurities to try to mess up other people's businesses that you've worked with?
Well, I mean, if first listening to that, I would say yes, because haven't we all? But be more specific.
So if a guy's working with a woman and say a wife, or even the other way around, a woman's working with a man and the husband has whatever issue they have, they're like, you shouldn't be meeting those kinds of people because maybe they're charismatic or whatever, because they're in a field that maybe they're a liaison or they're connected. But because of maybe the personality or the dynamic or a fear or insecurity of, say, a beautiful woman working with a husband, and the wife is like, no, you can't work with her. And going, yeah, but she knows all these people that I need to know for my business. What are some of your thoughts just on today's societal push on like messing with people's business for their personal things?
Well, that's a good question. And yes, I have witnessed some of that and experienced it myself in some occasions. And, when it comes to like your wife, you want to give her some sort of grace, and you really want to, in my opinion, examine what you're really fighting for. Because again, and a lot of times, there may be people that we want to work with, or it might do the business good to work with them, but it's not critical. And I would question whether or not you would want to cause that kind of, break in a relationship, especially that big of a relationship in your life, just for the purpose of financial gain. So again, I mean, it depends on the situation, but personally, we all have a little insecurity, unfortunately. And if your significant other, has an insecurity about you working with a particular individual, I would say that you should probably take that a little bit more seriously than just brushing it off, as in, what are you talking about, bro? You got to trust me. You got to freaking, no, I would stop and give that some consideration. Why? Well, because listen, a lot of people, Rick, they don't have business problems. They've got personal problems that they bring to the business. And that would be one of them. So I would go focus on the personal relationship if I want to help the business relationship, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes very much sense. I was just curious your opinion. And so when we're working on people's mindset and working on those areas, you see people get tripped up in their own curses. This is stuff from the past. I was cheated on. I was abused. I was neglected. I was hurt. And this makes it so now when people are going into their business world, they're bringing their wounds into their business and trying to still manage. And this creates the limiting beliefs. This is the ones that I'm sure you've seen people run into over and over again, whether it be doubt. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm whatever enough.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too this, not enough that, whatever it could be. Those are your doubt ones, or fears. Brad, what if this? What if that happens? What if they do this? And what if they tell me no? And what if they do this? And those get into fear. You start watching, anxiety is just that multiplied. You watch the wounds from like the way they're in denial for what kind of persona should I be? What kind of personality should I be, Brad? How should I do that? Should I be like a character? Should I be like, yo, Brad, hey, hey, hey? Should I do that? And like a car salesman? Like, what kind of niche should I be? You're watching people bring their personal stuff and to try to figure out what they're supposed to be instead of being what they are. Now, when you're watching guys do this, how often are you watching this like just train wreck and you go, stop trying to be something you're not and try and work through what you are so you can actually be authentic in building something that's worth building?
Well, this is deep wisdom, Rick. At the end of the day, man, I have a strong belief in being who you are, regardless of other people's opinion. There's something called allodoxophobia, and it's the fear of other people's opinion. And a lot of people are stricken by that and limited by that. And the fear that they feel causes them to make certain decisions or stops them from making certain decisions. And I think it's a catastrophe. It could literally kill your dreams. So yes, I've seen people put on these images and these fronts only to find out later that it causes them major issues. At the end of the day, man, if you fake who you are, it's only a matter of time before the real you surfaces and everybody sees it, and then your foundation isn't solid and everything cracks, and now you got to start over. Had you just been authentic from day one, yes, you might not have had the same relationships, but you would have relationships nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And if you allow the universe or God to work like he does, and you become authentically you, you are going to naturally filter out the people that should not be around you and resonate to the ones that should. So again, if someone follows me on social media and they don't like what they hear, we're really not aligned. What I say doesn't resonate, it offends them. I might, look at that and say, hey, well, you have some work to do on yourself if what I'm saying offends you, but I don't worry about it. Listen, if you unfollow me, I think you should have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you follow me, good, I think you should have. And why? Well, because I'm going to say what I think and be me, regardless of whether you like me or not. You know why? Because I've done the work and I like me. Okay. I
Well,
don't
what's
need
the
I don't I don't
alternative?
I don't need someone else's validation.
Well,
I
what's the
validate.
alternative if you listen to them, Brad? What happens if you go like, oh, you don't like me, I should be like you said? Well, what's that alternative look like?
Well, it looks like hell.
Exactly. And this is the game
Ultimately,
for today.
yeah, ultimately you start acting like something else and you attract all these other people and you think you're succeeding because it may be on the surface successful. But then when the real you, when your real opinions emerge, and they eventually will. You ever see
Mhm.
those old people that don't care anymore? It's
Oh,
because they
yes.
reached a level to where they don't care anymore. Like, I don't care if you don't like my pants up to here. I don't care anymore. I'm too old to care. Well, that's when you start to actually, realize that it doesn't matter, man. And if you adopt that earlier, you are going to build a much more solid foundation. And that's what I think is success, is when it lasts. I don't think success for 10 years and then it all crumbles is more successful than someone who spent, 10 years building a solid foundation. Even though it may not have had been that successful, it's going to continue to be and remain. And to me, that's more success if you're measuring.
I like it. This is something I agreed with you on. When I was watching how people do this, one of the worst things I've ever seen happen when people create a niche and they make a character is that it works. It's the worst thing I've ever seen that happens is it works. Well, what happens? Well, now you have to be pigeonholed into that thing and you have to stay whatever that character is and you have to be whatever that is. And if it's not authentic and you have to keep playing a role or putting a mask on, eventually it starts to crack and eventually it doesn't
Well,
work out. And that means your entire infrastructure will fall apart from a lack of authenticity. If you are living in denial, at some point it exposes who you really are. That's imposter syndrome at its core. And so it's funny when you say, because you're offended, I should change myself. This is why knowing thyself is so important. And I agree with you on this one. If you don't know thyself, you'll fall for just about anything that somebody tries to judge you on. And they sure try, don't they?
brother, that is a fact. Everyone has an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why allodoxophobia is so crippling, because if you have fear of other people's opinion, their judgment,
Mm-hmm.
well then I would just highly suggest that you go and figure out thyself, as you put it. Go figure out who you are, and pretty soon, if you realize that you're not a very good person, you're technically, as they thought you were, a piece of shit. The good news is you can forgive yourself and correct that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not defined by your past. I don't believe that your past defines you. I believe your present defines you. And if you can correct your previous behavior, belief system, etc., well, then you can turn into something else. You can change. People say a leopard doesn't change its spots. Well, number one, we're not leopards. Number two, people do change. I've changed. I used to be the guy that would say what I needed to say to get what I wanted to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care what damage it did. I don't care that if you discovered after you wrote me a check that it wasn't really like I claimed. Now I'm exactly the opposite. I will not take your money unless I can deliver everything and a little bit more than I said I would. I've had people literally want to write me checks for something that I knew I couldn't deliver, and I turned down their money, and they couldn't believe that I was that quote unquote honest. Well, again, I wasn't always that way, man. So I
Yeah.
changed, and people can change. And the crazy part is, you need to change. If you do not change, nothing changes. So even though people are afraid to change, that's what's required. And quite frankly, you're going to change one way or the other. So at the end of the day, you might as well change for the better.
You want to hear a fun wordplay?
Sure.
Whenever you use the word change, people seem to have a defense around it, some sort of like coveting or some sort of hold on to or like a resistance. Have you noticed when you're like, you need to change? They're like, I know, but. And you start seeing like the butt workouts come out, the 1T butts, not the 2T butts. Yeah, I know that, but, and you don't know the way I was raised but my family always has. And what I've always done. And here's what my old mentor said, and you start seeing the butts come out. And when it comes to the word change itself, it's difficult because it's associated to loss. And I don't know if people catch that right off. Is if you change, what you used to do is no longer. Even if you change for the better, your old routine is gone and the way things were before are no longer there. And people have a hard time with loss in general. It's one of the hardest things people to work through is loss. And so when you go, like, even though let's say I worked at one place for 10 years and I drove out of my place and I turned left to get there, and I have the coffee shop I go to, and then I say hey to Brad, and I say hey to, Maria, and I say hey to everybody on the way in. I did that for 10 years. But then I get an upgrade. I change to a new location, new job, better hours, better pay, better everything. But now I turn right when I leave from my house. My entire routine is now different. Everything that used to do for a decade is now gone. Even if it's better, it's still associated to a loss. And so change is difficult for people for that reason. You want to hear a fun wordplay that changed that? I did a survey for people. I'm like, do people change? And it was very mixed answers. I asked people, do you evolve? The change your stripes thing or change your spots, that's one thing. But I said, do you believe that you can evolve out of your old behavior into the person that you're meant to be? And for some reason, using the word evolve pulled people right out of their own loss. It made it feel like, yeah, you know what? I'm actually happy to evolve into the next version of me, the next chapter. And just one small tweak of language turns somebody from losing to empowered. It's very silly how these words work with us.
I like that.
And it's a cool thing for you to just go, I see how you speak. And I personally, because I've done enough of my own work, I like how you speak because I've done enough journey to go, I know exactly what he means. But somebody who hasn't gone far enough on the road may be stuck in loss and grief. And what about what I used to do and how I used to do things and my old system? I'm like, are you ready to evolve out of what you used to be into the man or, woman you're meant to be? And that feels empowering instead of like I'm losing.
I like that.
It's just fun stuff like this. Another thing for the authenticity element of it. If you're being authentic from the very beginning, it allows you to change or evolve during your entire business's process. I watched something that you talked about that I teach also. I do it Stoic philosophy route, but you said make adjustments. Make adjustments. Well, with my own company and my own people, the adjustments is I go off of Marcus Aurelius, the king of Rome, Marcus Aurelius. And at the height of Rome, he was like, if you give me new information, better information, I reserve the right to change my mind. Most powerful man on earth. I reserve the right to change my mind with new information. And if you're being authentic and you go like, yeah, I had to pivot and change the direction of how I was doing this, or we added this new piece of it. That one new piece makes it so when people are watching your show or they're watching your content or they're watching your company or they're watching your evolution, it was authentic the entire time because you're watching my journey. You're not watching my character. You're not watching my one niche that I'm stuck into. I reserve the right to change my mind if there's a better way. And that make adjustments is something with an adaptability that I connected with you. Like we teach the same thing. My business has evolved dramatically from what it was when I started because I reserve the right to change my mind if there's a better way. I'm listening. And a good idea can come from anywhere. So I've had new guys come up with a new thing that makes our whole program stronger. Thank you for the idea, bud. Appreciate it. And so go ahead.
I just make observations along the way. To me, if you're not willing to make adjustments, you end up stuck or cornered. Just like if you're heading somewhere and you experience a traffic jam, you don't just say, screw it, I'm not going and head back home. You figure out another way around. You figure out an alternative path. So at the end of the day, making adjustments is crucial. And even in an airplane, like when you take off in an airplane, people think you just fly straight to where you're going. That pilot is literally making adjustments the whole entire way based on the instruments and the readings. So you have to be willing to make adjustments. I say that there's 5 factors of success. Number 1, you got to take a chance or work for someone who did. Too many people are afraid to take a chance because they're afraid to fail and look foolish. Well, again, that's because they don't have a strong enough self-worth. If you want to raise your net worth, raise your self-worth. But you have to take a chance. Step 2, you got to be good at solving problems. What do most people do? They avoid problems. They run from problems. They push them away. When in reality, to get good at something, you just need practice and repetition. So if you have to get good at solving problems, then you do that by solving problems and getting good at it. Because there's problems coming, brother. No matter what, if you're starting your own business especially, there's problems coming. So you got to get good at solving problems. Step 3, make adjustments. Okay, pay attention to what's going on and don't be afraid to make some adjustments. Step 4, constantly grow and develop. Constantly self-improve. It should be a daily effort to improve, to grow, to develop. And what's the best way to grow and develop and learn? A lot of times, challenges, failures, so don't be afraid of those. It's part of the formula. And then 5, outdo yesterday. Just outdo the day before. If you literally just outdo the day before 9 times out of 10 over a period of time, you're going to freaking crush it. So what did I just say? 5 factors. Number 1, take a chance or work for someone who did. Number 2, get good at solving problems. Number 3, make adjustments. Number 4, continuously improve yourself, grow and develop. And number 5, outdo the day before. You do that, you're almost guaranteed success.
I love it. This is the part where I watch the mindset part. That's what I do, by the way. I'm on the part where like, well, what's the difference between someone as successful as Brad and somebody who's really struggling? It's not that you have more eyes, more ears, more hands, more feet. It's just the way you look at these things. And so here's a couple of fun things. One thing I do with these trainings for exactly the thing you just did, the take a chance, do a risk, all those things. Have you ever heard the story, the difference between eagles and chickens? Have you ever heard that?
Tell me.
All right, so there's a quick story on this one, but the idea behind it is a farmer was walking down the road and found an egg on the side of the road. He takes the egg back to his farm, puts it in his chicken coop. The egg hatches, and inside is an eagle. Now, the eagle is raised by chickens, and so it just does what chickens do. It clucks on the ground, just eats grain, just flutters around, and acts and does all the things that chickens do. And living its life like a chicken, one day sees an eagle flying overhead. And he asks one of the other chickens, what the hell is that thing? That chicken's like, that's an eagle, man. King of the skies, man. Nothing is cooler than the eagle. That's 1%er, man. That's the best of the best. But you never have to worry about that, man, because you're just a chicken like the rest of us. And that eagle will disregard the vision that it has, that it can see, that everyone tells it it's weird because it's got an idea or a dream or a vision that they can't see, or a wingspan that's too big or real wide. And they're like, you're a fucking freak. You're a weirdo. Stop with your weird wingspan, freak. And that eagle lives its entire life with the mindset of a chicken, never ever taking risk, never taking a chance, never ever trying to do what it was built to do because it always believed it was meant for the ground. Yet when any eagle starts going, you know what? I was talking with Brad and he was telling me that maybe I can do it. And all the other chickens are saying, that's a stupid idea. That'll never work. You can't get that off the ground. That's a fail. You're going to fail at that. You should stay between the lines. Just stay with your 9 to 5. Never take a chance. Don't take a risk. And so those eagles live and die thinking that they're chickens. But if you go out and fly, you go out, and I go, Brad and I went out this week and we fucking flew over fucking mountains, dude. And we tried to see who could push each other up higher to reach our personal best. And then we caught fucking fish in the lake and we ate in the trees and we talked about the dreams that we're going to make come true. And you go back to your chicken friends and you go, guess what we did? And they go, that's not true. That's impossible. You can't do that. It's never going to work. It doesn't work like that. You should stay in the chicken coop, stay where it's safe, never fly, never take risk. What if you fall? What if you're flying and fall? Would you ever think of that? And most people, especially, did you know that most valedictorians or people who have like straight A's usually never make it beyond middle management because they're afraid to not get an A+ or a gold star. They're afraid to take a risk and go for it. Because what if I fail? Well, there's like a 50% chance of failure if I went for it, and I don't want to take that risk. We're somebody who's a little bit less averse to the risk. We're like risk averse. We're like 50%, fucking odds in my favor, glass half full. Let's rock and roll. Best odds I had all week. Like, this is where you see the difference from the mentality of somebody who thinks they're made for the ground and someone who's like, you can fucking do it, man. I believe in you. You can fly. Let's go try, man. Yeah, you may fail. Yeah, you're going to find challenges. Yeah, it's going to get difficult. Yeah, and sometimes the storms come, and sometimes it rains, man, sometimes. So what? You coming? And this is where you start finding other people with the same mentality. Someone who, when you say, I have a vision, they go, you can do it. People who may judge you as cocky or arrogant, these chickens. But eagles go, you have competency. You have the skill. I see that you can do that. I believe in you. And it's different mindsets. And so when there are chickens and there are eagles, you can start telling the difference when you're talking to somebody. And you riddle me this. Tell me I'm wrong. When you're talking to somebody who you're like, I see you trying to fit that eagle suit on, buddy. But you're a chicken, man. I want you to be able to believe in yourself, but I don't think you have the tools to do this. And I don't think you believe in yourself enough to really go for it. In fact, your dream and what you want is so flimsy. I don't know if you even have a why.
Well, the Bible tells us, you know, not to judge, supposedly.
Matthew 7, yeah.
And I say to that, there's also scripture that says you can tell his children by their fruit. So I'm just a fruit inspector.
Mhm.
I don't doubt anybody has the potential because God made us. I do believe that some people lack the mindset, the skill set, or the habits. If you lock in three pillars and only those three pillars, you are unstoppable. You have to have the right mindset, you have to have the right skill set, and you have to have the right habits. I can show you somebody who has a great mindset, but they're running in the wrong direction. They're not very good at anything. They think they're good at everything. They're positive. They're abundantly thinking, but they're not going anywhere because they're not very good. And it's just the truth. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, they have to combine a good mindset with some skill sets. And the skill sets can be learned and developed by anybody. That's the good news. Like, even if you suck, which a lot of people suck in the beginning, we all suck
At everything.
until we don't.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you suck, the good news is you can get better. Okay.
Mhm.
So now it's the skill set. But if you have the right mindset, you're talented as hell, you're really good at some things, but your habits are terrible, again, you can still crash. But if you got the right mindset, you got the right skill set, and you got the right habits, brother, nothing is going to stop you, period.
Now, I'm going to throw in that the other piece that makes the most sense here. The hands that you shake, the more money you make. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. This is something I've seen you say over and over. And this is where, like, you can have the right mindset, the right skills, and right habits, and it seems like you're going to attract like-minded people. Fair or
Well,
not fair?
I would say fair. Again,
Yeah.
I mean, the people that should be around you will come around you if you're authentically yourself.
Hmm.
They will also disperse when you're authentically yourself. The problem is when people care who's coming and who's going. The reason why is because they need validation from these certain people. So you fall in love with someone and you don't want them to leave your life, so you change for them. When in reality, that's a temporary thing. More than
Hmm.
likely, you're pretending to be something you're not, only to lose that person anyway 5 years later.
Correct.
Why wouldn't you just build a relationship with yourself so you validate yourself, so you love yourself, and then let everybody else do what they do? You can't control other people. So at the end of the day, be yourself, be, you know, authentically yourself, and allow other people to make their own decisions. And if they stay, great. And if they don't, great.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I think that's a natural selection. I think it's going to happen automatically if you let it. A lot of people, they won't let that happen.
They don't understand. And this is why when I do the deep work, I do transformational work for people. And so I just had a podcast this morning with a guy who goes into hell also. And you can tell the difference. People who have been there and people who just read about it. It's a different thing. And so when you're talking about be yourself, love yourself, all those things, most people are so riddled with belief systems from their parents and from their upbringing and the things with them that know thyself has become it's almost impossible because they've never had enough exposure to anything that was that confident. And to break the curses that you've had to break, especially from your father throwing you out for the lawn and the shit you've had to overcome to be as strong and confident as you are, it requires hard treks up mountains. Sometimes you're ice skating uphill and people don't understand. They're like, you skated up 3 feet, went down two. You're like, and I did it for years. And they don't understand the grind that it takes to be able to find thyself. It's on the journey. And I think
And
that's where people are like, you have to start with your why. I watched Simon Sinek, Brad. Know thy why. Know the why. I got to know my why. You're like, you find your why when you're fucking going up the mountain, man. You'll figure you out when you start hitting some obstacles because it's not the circumstances that define you. They reveal you to yourself. And are you riddled with curses or do you find solutions? You're going to figure you out in a little bit. You're going to know when you run into something. Do you stare at the obstacle or do you stare at your dream? Because if you don't have one, you're going to show who you really are to you. And I think this is where you start seeing your pieces fall together, take risks, solve problems, make adjustments. And then you run into the challenges. And people run into failure. I'm fear of failure. You'll figure out who you are when you have to face it. Now you're in a 1%er mindset. I already see you. And so when it comes to this, what do you think about failure? Because people are going to, I hear this all the time. Chick can talk about failure. I'm like, no, take a different look at it. It's not failure. But what do you think failure is? What do you think we even have that for?
Well, I think failure exists, but not how everybody believes it to be. Like, in other words, I've failed before because I gave up. And once you give up, it could be technically a failure. But if you never give up, it's not a failure, it's a lesson. And the lesson can be learned. And that means there's value. And the value, basically cancels out the failure. To me, a failure is a permanent loss. Otherwise, how's it a failure? It's just a temporary setback. It's just a lesson. It's a challenge. It's an opportunity for growth. So a lot of people consider failures, or I should say, some people believe that opportunities are failures, when in reality, I believe it's an opportunity to get better and stronger. And if you take the opportunity, it can't be a failure per se. But I think everyone's definition changes, and it's based on your definition. It's based on your perspective. And so I've got an unbelievable perspective of life. I wake up every day realizing how valuable that in and of itself is. So when some people wake up and they start dreading that they have to go to work, and they dread that they're behind on bills and they can't figure out rent, they see that as a problem. I see that as an opportunity because I got to wake up. I tell people all the time, one of my posts went viral a couple of years ago in multiple languages. I see people, using it constantly to this day. And it started out with me trying to come up with an analogy to get someone to understand what I was talking about. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. How would you feel if I gave you like $1 million? Because everything was about money. Oh boy, that would be amazing. I would feel so relieved, and I would still feel so excited, and you couldn't rain on my parade, and I'd be in a great mood, and everything would be wonderful. Nothing would be a problem. And I said, well, if I gave you $1 million, but you couldn't wake up tomorrow, would you take it? And they're like, well, of course not. And I said, well, then you agree that waking up is worth more than $1 million. And they're like, yeah. How much is it worth? Well, it's worth more than any amount of money. Exactly. So you wake up with a gift so valuable, and then you spend the rest of your day pissed off because you have opportunities and challenges to figure out that make you stronger, by the way, which is what you're praying for. It's what you're hoping for. But yet when the challenges come, you're bummed out. Okay, that's a mindset issue. It's a gratitude issue. If you really understand how life works, waking up is the most valuable gift there is, and you get it every morning. And if you just accept that gift, honestly accept it and appreciate it, be grateful for it, well, then the behind on rent and the car payment and the problems and the people wanting to freaking murder you and all the crap that we have to deal with, those become opportunities instantly. And so I tricked my brain a long time ago to think that. I put a sign on my wall that said, congratulations, you get another day. And every time I woke up and started worrying about past due bills and, I'm not where I wanted to be and all the problems we face as human beings, I would look at that sign and realize, dude, I get, I get another day. I get another chance. So it just made me all of a sudden optimistic, abundant. I jumped out of bed. I didn't waste time. I wasn't, hey, maybe I need to sleep longer. No, man, I was fired up to go after the challenges and opportunities that were before me, and it changed my perspective. So that's the trick I always try to teach people, is realize how important just simply waking up is, and appreciate and be grateful for just that. And if you can do that, honestly do that, which I can honestly do it,
Mm-hmm.
everything else shifts. All that you look at negatively become positive. So someone on a podcast one time asked me, they were talking about my story and they did some research. And at one point I went to LA to be a movie star, and I ended up homeless on the beach. And they wanted to know about that. And they didn't say that. They said, Brad, tell us how it was to hit rock bottom. And I said, I don't think I've hit rock bottom. Because when people ask me a question, I just try to think of the answer. So I thought, well, how was it hitting rock bottom? And then I thought, well, man, I've never really hit rock bottom. So I told them, I said, I don't know. I've never hit rock bottom. And they said, weren't you homeless on the beach? I said, yeah. And you don't think that's rock bottom? Hell no. Number one, it's the beach. Okay. Nothing wrong with the beach. Matter of fact, people pay a lot of money to wake up on beaches, you know. But at the end of the day, no, I do not think that's rock bottom at all. I don't think homeless is rock bottom at all. You know, so what's rock bottom? Life in prison would be a little bit more rock bottom than homeless. Okay. I could think of a million things. And quite frankly, if I were ever in those situations, I would probably find positive in that. So at the end of the day, I don't know what rock bottom is. I couldn't fathom rock bottom, but I know I've never been anywhere near it. I've been blessed and lucky since the day I was born. Thank God. I continue to be blessed and lucky every day my eyes open. So at the end of the day, my mindset is of abundance. It is of possibility, optimism. You know, it's not pessimistic, it's not limited, and it's not scarce. Too many people have that perspective because it boils down to a perspective, man. It's your perspective. You can take two people, put them in the same exact environment, the same exact situation, and one's happy and one's upset. Now, how is that possible? It's possible because this person's seeing things differently than this person. That's your perspective. So right now, if you're going through life with troubles and challenges and you're bummed out and you're depressed and you feel like suicide and you literally just don't know how you're going to manage, all you got to do is shift your perspective. Because there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but it's true. If you want the world to change, change the way you look at it. And it changes immediately. People always say, Brad, what is the fastest way I can, get out of this situation? I say, change the way you look at it. If you can instantly change the way you're looking at the situation, instantly the situation changes. People don't get how simple that actually is. Right now, there's people listening to this podcast. I'm telling you. And they're saying, easy for you to say, well, you got money and blah, 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 blah. Their perspective is over here, where if they just understood what I said and they really, truly want to change what's happening to them, they have to change that perspective. And instantly, what's happening to them will change. And that mindset is the key if there is one. Because people always say, Brad, what's the key? Well, I don't necessarily think that there's a key. I think it's more of a combination. Think of it as a combination lock. Like there is a combination and everybody has their own, right? My combination isn't necessarily yours, but there's no key. So what we have to do if we really want to, find the combination is search, get to know thyself, ask questions, think. Man, people don't understand how many people go through life without actually thinking. They don't think, man. And people realize, well, I thought about what to eat for lunch. I'm thinking. No, I'm talking about think, man. Because when you start getting new information, you start to think about that new information. And that thinking causes you to get to know yourself. It causes you to question and challenge and grow and develop. One of my frameworks for building your self-worth, because I always tell people, listen, you want to change your net worth, change your self-worth. The reason you make what you make is because you believe that's what you're worth. How would you accept $20 an hour if you didn't think that's all you're worth? I would never accept $20 an hour. You couldn't pay me $20 an hour for nothing. Why? Because I'm worth way more than that. Why do I believe that? Some people be like, oh, I can't believe this guy. He thinks he's so great. Am I supposed to think I'm not? Am I supposed to think I'm a low life? Am I supposed to think I'm worthless? What am I supposed to think according to you? If I'm not supposed to think I'm worth it and I'm great, what am I supposed to think? Explain it to me.
You keep pointing out the judgments on this. Just as far as like if I was hitting the bomb button for you right now, you are dropping a lot of wisdom. I think that people won't. I can see why people struggle understanding what you're saying, because you're saying the correct answer, but it's hard for them to bridge the gap between their where they are to the answer, and the answers are not the solutions. And so if you're like, no, the other side of the river, that's where you need to be. And they're like, I'm over here. I'll give you an example. You know what this is, right?
Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. is a solved Rubik's Cube. This is what it looks like. All the colors are corresponding with the other colors. This is what it looks like. And they're like, all right, cool. So, all right. So I know all the colors have to, I know that. I know what it's supposed to, but mine's not doing it, Brad. How come like mine isn't, you're like, oh, it must be easy for you. Yours does that, but mine isn't doing it. I don't get it. Well, the answer is all the colors, but I don't know the solution. I'm missing the gap. And so you're saying the correct things and trying to find that authentic bridge. How do you build your bridge? And each person has their bridge, but it's tough because how many people out there are like, I'll get you the greens. Greens is the answer. Get greens done. But the rest of their cube is fucked. The rest of their life is not in order and it's a total mess, but they're like, get the greens, buy my program, get the greens. And so now we're getting the solutions instead of just the answers. You said some really fucking good stuff right there. And maybe we can just put some bridge pieces together for people. You said the gratitude thing, attitude of gratitude, the presence in the presence. Here's something to help people out. You are actually giving the blueprint to stop depression and anxiety. I don't know if you know this, but when I beat it, that's part of it. Presence in the present is a big part of it. And you said I wake up every morning. And I have gratitude in my, just the value in waking up every day is more than $1 million. That's such a powerful analogy, but how do I use it? How do I use that right now? There's a Lao Tzu quote where he says like anxiety is in the future, depression is in the past, and peace is in the present. And so I wrote something recently for my guys where it says, we see people right now spend their present minutes in pasts that are no longer happening, in futures that will never happen. And the days that we go by are a documentary of us watching time disappear. And we're just watching people spending their times in all the what ifs and the woulda, coulda, shouldas, instead of, are you present in the minutes you have right now that you're wasting, that you could be like appreciating where you're at and learning and growing and connecting and being grateful that you have a chance this very second. You're in free will right now, that you can choose right now to go, I'm going to go for my dream, actually, instead of think about how my dream got away from me that time that I regret not taking the opportunity. It's like, you're still in the opportunity right now, dude. You can still do that. Well, bridging that gap right there makes it so you get out of the past. Don't get caught up so much in the futures that you're scared of. And staying present in the present, like you just mentioned, well, it changes your present minutes into possibilities instead of just watching time disappear.
Well, again, you just did the Rubik's Cube. Where's the bridge, brother? Where's the bridge? How do you do that?
So this is where,
you know what it boils down to? You choose to. There's no massive bridge that needs to be built. There's no map that needs to be drawn. People need to understand it boils down to a decision. It's a decision. You don't find happiness, you choose happiness. You're choosing not to be happy. So, again, how do you fix that? Choose to be happy. Well, easy for you to say that's negative, scarce, limited mindset. That's negative thinking. Change the way you think. Well, how? I don't understand how. You choose to. That's the truth. And that's the simplicity. You choose to.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't know the tools. Do you want me to give you a bridge for happiness?
Make a choice, brother.
I'll give you
make a choice.
I'll give you a bridge. The happiness one. I was researching happiness when I did a program on this. You see the experts, Harvard professors like Arthur C. Brooks, and people who are like professors who write books on happiness. And happiness by itself is a subjective term. Do we at least agree on that? Like everyone's got a different definition of happiness?
Well, sure.
Sure. So if I said, what's happiness? Your definition will be different than the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. So happiness by itself is already, we all have a different definition for that one word. Well, he says, all right, first get into Harvard. Super easy. Second, that class sells out very quickly because everyone in college right now wants happiness. So you have to get in there in the first ones in class. And then the answers are 3 steps. It's satisfaction, enjoyment, and you have purpose. I said, wait a fucking second. Are you telling me satisfaction, enjoyment, and purpose? Those are 3 more subjective terms. Are you telling me in order to find happiness, I have to get into Harvard, be first in line, understand 3 more subjective terms, understand the first term? What the fuck are you talking about? I know kids that don't even know what Harvard is who are happy as hell. So that can't be the answer. Again, people are trying to make up bridges that are way too complicated. We had a definition for this. Here's the bridge that we use. Happiness is the awareness of the blips in life that are found in nouns and verbs. Now, what I want you to do is challenge the fuck out of that because it sounds like bullshit. Happiness is the awareness of the blips in life that are found in nouns and verbs. What I mean by that is first you have to be aware that they're even there, which is why you said wake up and enjoy. You woke up, man. Did you even know? Stop taking it for granted. Do you have awareness before you can even make a decision? Blips. A blip is by definition temporary. That means everything that exists is not meant to last forever. Every moment, this podcast right now, this moment I get to hang out with you, it's a blip. We're in the middle of one right now. Most people take it for granted. They think that this is just supposed to be or something. Even the cup of coffee I have is a blip. It's here now. It'll be gone later. This whole building, everything. Life is how we measure time and our timeline in it. And then what's a noun? People, places, things. Right? Or verbs, which is I like skiing, I like driving my car, I like dancing, whatever. If you have presence in the present, you're surrounded right now by blips at all times. Well, that means happiness then becomes a choice because your awareness is different because you're in everything around you is temporary and meant to not last forever. And that makes them precious. That makes them priceless. That makes them fragile. Because right now we're in a moment that's not supposed to last forever. And that's what makes it so great. And people are trying to be happy all the time. Slow that shit down because you're missing all of the good things because you're not paying attention to being present around you at the moment. So what do I need to do to change my perspective, like you said, to choose being able to recognize what is happiness? It's being able to know that everything around you is temporary and so appreciate it in the moment because it is not meant to last, and that makes it beautiful. Our lives, by definition on Earth, are a blip. We're a snap, man. Not even millions of years, and we're here for not even 100 of them. We're a snap in history. You're a blip right now. Man, that's beautiful. That's amazing. You're in the middle of something so fucking rare and precious, and we take it for granted sitting in the past and depressions or anxieties of the future. And we're not paying attention that you're surrounded by blessings all around. You're in a building right now that is a blessing. And in 1,000 years, that building won't be there. Everything is temporary. The mountains will change. The trees will grow. The rivers will widen or shrink. Everything will change. And so we're in the middle of a blip at all times. And do you appreciate the moment you're in? Because happiness is everywhere around you. That's a bridge. Now you can choose if you have awareness. Now you can pay attention to your blips immediately. Like write this out. You don't have to go to Harvard for that shit. You could just do that right now. Like, oh man, I'm surrounded by blessings. I woke up this morning. That's worth more than $1 million. I didn't have that perspective of the blips themselves. Something
Well,
so simple.
when you think about the blips or the future and the past, you're really thinking about things that don't exist other than the present.
Correct.
Like literally, the future doesn't exist. The past no longer exists. The only thing there is, the only thing there actually is the now. It is
Correct.
the present. It's the now. And what's crazy, as soon as I say now, it's no longer now.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you say now,
It's the past.
it's no longer there. So if you break it down to the microsecond and you appreciate with the gratitude, now, believe it or not, everything should be more valuable. Everything should be more enjoyed and literally appreciated. However, people can't get there. They don't understand why. Well, because they're not listening. They're not paying attention. They're too busy in their own head instead of listening to what you're saying or I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying or someone else is saying. So at the end of the day, you could say that, people are the reason they don't win.
They are.
You are the responsible party. And that's why I say it boils down to a choice, because people always say, well, Brad, how do you become this way? Man, you choose to. It really boils down to choose to. If
Correct.
somebody's really overweight and they say, well, how do you get in shape? Well, you got to eat right and you got to do this and you got to do that. Well, what does it start with? It starts with a choice. Period. You got to choose to. Okay, I choose to be in shape. Okay, good. Now what? If you choose to be in shape, what are you going to do? You have to start, you start becoming, you start to be, and that's the thing. You have to be before you become. I
Well,
mean, this is getting
the
to
belief
me,
system
this is
change.
getting deeper than most people can grasp because
Please go, because this is where I write my books.
well, I know, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be before you become. You can't become until you be, and people don't get that. It's not something that you do so you can be, so you can have. You have to freaking be
Yes,
to do to have. They got shit backwards. So
correct.
you have to be. So if I want to be rich, I think to myself, what is rich? What do I have to be? And you can just imagine and assume and probably hit the target more often than not.
Well,
I want to be in shape. What does the guy in shape do every day? Who is the person? What is he like? Describe it. Just guess. Well, he's probably more disciplined. Okay, be disciplined. He's
mhm.
probably eating better. Okay, be a healthy eater. He's probably going to the gym a lot. Be the guy that goes to the gym a lot. So all you have to do is choose to be first. So that's why I say it's a choice. Anybody can choose to change. Anybody can choose to literally become anything they want to be. But if you right now are listening to this and you're saying that's not true, okay, then what's that called? What's
Denial.
that? That's the
It's,
proof I'm trying to give you.
it's
You don't
denial. Yeah.
you don't believe it. And what's crazy about belief systems is just because you believe it doesn't make it true.
Well, it's worded differently. It's the wording for it is beliefs do not require facts to be beliefs.
That's my point. You don't
Yeah.
have to, it doesn't have to be true for you to believe it. You could believe you're worthless. It doesn't make it true, but
Well,
you do
it
believe
does.
it.
It does if you believe it. Beliefs are
Does
the
not make
core
it
of
true.
everything.
I will disagree with you
This
100%. Does
here's
not
why.
make it
It's
true. It does not
because
make it true.
it's because of self-fulfilling prophecies. If I believe I am not able, then I will make sure I am not able. And
Doesn't
this
make it
is
true.
well, I mean, the truth now becomes relative, and we're a part of the
100%.
world right now is that truth is perspective. Truth is my
100%.
point of view. In which case, if I believe I could never go up that hill, it doesn't mean I'm not potentially able to. It means I will make sure I never get up the hill because I do
But
not
it's
believe I can.
but again, what is true? True is something that everybody would agree upon.
Which means truth now becomes agreements, not truth.
No, there's things that are true, and then there's things that are opinions and perspectives. But
Today's day has
there
gotten
is such
weird
a
for
thing.
that. My
There is
truth has superseded the truth in this day and age.
Yeah, but there are certain truths in this world. I don't care what you believe; it's the truth, and
Here's
it's
an
the truth whether you believe it or not. In other words,
sure.
if I cut your head off, you will cease to live as a human being. That is true, no matter who believes it or not. That's
That's
the
true.
truth. Okay,
That's
so there
true.
are truths, and then there's beliefs. The
Correct.
beliefs aren't necessarily true.
Now, when it comes to potential, beliefs become truths.
I disagree. Maybe that's because I'm so awoke.
Maybe. And this is where we run into the people like,
It's not
because
true. You
just so you
might
know,
think you're ugly. That's not true. You might think I'm ugly. That's not true. If
well,
I think
somebody's
you're,
opinion. But
I know,
but
but
again,
it doesn't
those
make
are
it true.
beliefs. And this is where it gets into also facts. Just so you know, like here's how much I disagree with you. This is my first book. It's called Everything is a Choice. Just so you can see how much I'm aligned with what you actually are saying. So I'm not going against you. My very first book was no, everything comes down to choice.
Bottom line.
So I'm with you. I'm with you. But
However,
we have to
you
go into what are the choices that we make with our beliefs.
yeah, but you told me in the very beginning to challenge you if
I
I
love it.
to do so, and I
Brad,
am challenging the
I love
fact
it.
that you are trying to espouse that because you believe it, it makes it true. No, it doesn't. It
Sir,
doesn't make it true.
when it comes to potentials, I'll stand with it. And this
I
is where
believe.
if I
I
believe
believe
I can or I believe I can't, either way I'm right.
that. I believe that is
That's a belief
correct.
system.
But
That's a
being right
potential.
and being true are two different things, dude.
Well, let's do this. Here's
It's not
one. You ever
truth.
heard of Isaac Newton? You ever heard of
Yes.
that guy? So
Let me just say this.
okay.
I don't believe it. We can agree to disagree. If
Sure.
you believe because you believe it, that makes it true, it doesn't make it true. It might make it true to you, but it doesn't make it true.
Correct.
So
I
you might
agree
for another
contextually.
person, I know, but you might think you're an ugly person, and so therefore it's true. No, it's not. It's not true, and it's never going to be true just because you believe it. So you can believe things that are not true. And so people need to understand just because you believe it doesn't make it true. And that's a fact. That's
It's
true, what I just said.
it's so tricky because the example you used is an opinion. I believe I'm ugly or I believe you're beautiful. Well, those are subjective
Those
opinions.
are, but it doesn't make it true.
But truth then becomes like subjective to the beholder in that specific thing. Like cutting your head off, that's not a beholder thing. That's is.
True is. You
So Isaac Newton, when he got hit in the head with an apple, he was like, gravity pulls you down, man. Gravity is a fact. Is gravity a fact?
the theory of it is, yes.
Right. So here we are, theory of gravity. So Newton's like, man, gravity, everything I do keeps getting pulled down to the ground. So gravity pulls you down. And everyone's like, yeah, it checks out, dude. Seems correct. We all agree. Gravity's pulling us down. We all agree. Until this Einstein guy comes along and starts mathing the whole thing out. And he's like, wait a second. We're being pushed down, not pulled down. It's gravity's pushing down. And they math it out. And then they go, wait a second. That seems right. All right, we're going to change it. Gravity's pushing us down, not pulling us down. Who's right?
That's subjective.
Well, those are both mathematical facts, and people all agreed that Newton's correct until Einstein changed it. Now it's hundreds of years.
I know, but who says it's true or not true?
That's what I'm saying, is we all agreed, and that made it true.
No, it didn't.
For gravity, it did.
Okay,
and then we'll get the next level of gravity where like aliens come down and go, it's actually this way, and we'll change it again.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Let's say you're born with no arms and no legs, but no one ever tells you that. So you believe you have arms and legs. You don't. And that's the truth. And what you believe doesn't matter because it's not true that you have arms and legs. You do not, in fact, have arms and legs.
Correct.
Even if you believe it. So
Right.
therefore, just because you believe it doesn't make it true.
But again,
you might think a tree is ugly. I think it's beautiful. What's the truth? The truth is it's not beautiful or ugly. That's
just
the truth.
a tree. For sure. This is where I think we're agreeing aggressively. So like, and so when we look at this, the person's belief system is not, do I have arms and legs? It's, can I do what I want to do with my life even without? And people who go, you don't have arms and legs, you can never do anything. If you believe that, you will believe that it is true. But if you go no, wait a second, I can still do this, even if I don't have arms and legs, then they will find a way to do it. And that's what I mean by beliefs.
Yeah, but which means it wasn't true.
Correct.
Now,
we agreed.
what you're saying is theoretically,
perspective.
Well, again, I mean, I don't want to say it's true because it's not true. What you're saying is not true. If someone believes what you said, then I would disagree. Why? Well, because what you believe doesn't make it the truth. Period.
It does.
I don't care what you believe. If you believe something is true, it doesn't make it true. And that's all I'm saying. It does limit you. It does probably indicate not being able to do it because of your belief system, but it doesn't make it true just because you believe it. I might believe that I can jump off a building and fly. Some people have believed that.
That's true.
It didn't make it true. I don't care what you believe. It doesn't make it true. That's all I'm saying, because there might be people out there and they need to hear, just because you believe it, brother, doesn't make it true. And it makes them question, like, is that true? Is that real? Is it possible? Even though I don't believe that it is, yes, it's still possible, because just because you believe it doesn't make it true. And you were saying, well, if you believe it, it does make kind of.
Well, we're getting contextual, in which case I am being specific.
I'm literal Lee. That's what they call me. Literal Lee.
I'm loving it. So let's get literal. Literally, anything that has to do with a belief system on potential, not breaking physics, not, I believe I have 10 arms and so I'm a spider. That's not I believe I'm a cat. I'm not a biological cat. These are weird beliefs that people will live by right now. They actually started doing weird stuff.
Point.
Right. In which case, I'm agreeing with you contextually for things that start getting into the physics. Now, when it gets to belief systems on, I believe I have the potential to do something or not, those are as true as you believe. If you believe you can start a business and no matter what obstacles come in front of you, you will go off of Brad's 5 things to do. I'll take chances. I'll solve problems. I'll make adjustments. I'll grow and overcome challenges. I will figure out how to make myself worth my worth. I will do the work because I believe I can do it if I just follow what he says. Well, then you're right. But if you believe I was born in the wrong home, don't have a chance, I'll never be anything more than this. My potential is limited based on the place I was born and who I'm around, and I never had the opportunities and I never really tried for it. So what's the point in even trying, which is a rhetorical, so I never even go for it. Well, that person is also right. Now, the truth of everything became subjective based on I believed it, so I make it true, even though what you are saying is they still have the potential to do it, but they create a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's what the fight is for people today, is the self-fulfilling prophecies of I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to try. Is that a fact? I didn't say it's a fact. I said it's a belief system that they make true. So the subjectivity of it.
They don't make it true. They make it right, but they don't make it true.
Fair enough. And to them, they believe it's right.
Well, again, I do agree with you wholeheartedly that if you don't think you can, you are correct. But correct and right doesn't mean it's true.
Well, both correct and right became subjective. That's just my opinion.
Well, hey, again, differ of opinions.
Which is good because that's
in that, dude, I'll argue with anyone until I die and God tells me different. Because at the end of the day, the truth is the truth. You cannot change the truth.
Well, what do you think about the people
doesn't change
my truth? What about my truth? What about people who say my truth? Brad, my truth. But listen to my truth. What do you think about that?
The truth is the truth.
So when people say my truth,
it's not your truth. It's not my truth. It's the truth. There's only the truth. And you cannot change the truth. Yeah. The true meaning of the truth is it's the truth. Period. So you cannot change the truth. The truth is the truth. And you cannot change that. Your opinion doesn't change it. Your belief doesn't change it. It is what it is, and it'll never be different. The truth is the truth. So, therefore, you might have a mindset limitation where you believe certain things that technically, by what you're trying to say, makes it true. It doesn't make it true. It makes it right, meaning I agree with you, by the way. Limited beliefs will stop you. That is correct. That is not all of a sudden the truth, because the truth is, it's not subjective, the truth. The truth is your limiting belief is what's stopping you. It's not the truth that you came from a bad house, so you can't do it. You believe you can't do it, which makes it correct, which makes it right, but it's not the truth. Therefore, and I'd love to have your listeners like vote on what side they're debating on.
We already agreed, Brad.
I know, but I want to make sure that people understand. Just because you believe it doesn't make it true. So listen, the truth is you can change. You should change. And you have the ability to do anything no matter what you believe to be true. You do have the ability to believe it. Now, there's people going, I don't believe that, which means more than likely they'll never make it, which kind of makes it true for them, but it doesn't make it true. Right. It's still incorrect. They just don't believe it. So I want people to change their beliefs. Do you know how you change your belief?
I do it for a living. Yes.
Okay. Tell me how you change somebody's belief.
What you have to do is figure out where they're stuck. And so a lot of times people have the limiting beliefs. And so it's not one way. And I've actually
one way to change your belief.
You say it's decide, but people have usually grief.
Nope. There's only one way.
What's your one way?
Your belief.
Let's see. What's your one way?
To get new information.
Yes. Now, that's where it comes into the bridge, the gap.
That's the only way you can do it.
Because most people's limiting beliefs are built off of a grief system that's created an identity for them. And they don't know how to break out of it.
Rick, we're talking about two different things.
Information changes your starter point. If you don't know where your location starts, you can't get to where you want to go. And so this is like a GPS without a start location. It gets tricky. And so the information is needed to go, do you know where you're at? So you can get there, because where your location is. Yeah. So like where you're located right now, like if we're both having to get to Kansas City, we have different maps.
That's not what I said. What I said is there's only one way to change a belief.
Information.
Only one. There's no other way. There's only one way to change your belief. And that is new information. If you don't get any new information, you can never change your belief.
That's part of it, but it's not all of it, because
How
people
else?
know a lot.
Give me
Well,
another way to
well,
change
you
your belief.
need action. You can know everything and do nothing, and it changes nothing at
You
all.
don't need action to change a belief.
Not well. I
You
mean,
need information.
well, making a choice, wouldn't that be an action?
Again, you need new information to change your belief. Tell me another way to do it.
Application of the information is required.
That is changing your actions. That's not changing your belief. The only way to change a belief is to get new information.
Yeah, but a belief system is based on the information you already have. I agree with you on this. Application of new information is required, but if you disregard new information, or you take information and call it not true, or I don't agree, you'll never use it, which makes it now useless. Or if you have an abundance of information, like people who go to program after program, read all the books and listen to the podcasts, but never do any of the 5 steps that you just said, information now becomes pointless. It's wasted potential at that point. If I never go to take a chance, or never go and start my business, or I never listen to your advice, it doesn't matter how good your advice is and how much I've listened to everything you've said. If I never use it, it doesn't matter what my beliefs are, because I never did anything with it.
I would agree with your statement. However, that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about, how do you change your beliefs? There's only one way, and action isn't required to change them. New information is. I need new information, period. That's the only way to change a belief. Now, whether you decide to believe it or not, that's an action.
Correct.
That's irrelevant. You need new information, or you cannot change your belief. If you get no new information, you cannot change your belief. If I teach a little kid when they're young that fire doesn't burn, they will totally believe what it is I'm teaching them. They will walk up and stick their hand in the fire, and the second they touch that flame, they will get new information. And that new information will change their belief instantly. So the only way to change your belief is to get new information. You cannot have the same information and change your belief. So in order to change your belief, you must have new information. So that's why every day I encourage people to get and seek new information, because if you're getting what you're getting, it's because you're doing what you're doing. You're doing what you're doing because you believe what you believe. Doesn't make it true just because you believe it. So you're doing what you're doing. You're getting what you're getting. Okay, so I want to change what I'm getting, so I got to change what I'm doing. Okay, then understand, in order to change what you're doing, you have to change your beliefs. In order to change my beliefs, I must get new information. It's the only way to do it. There is no other way to change my belief.
I agree.
To get new information. So when I get new information, now obviously I can change my belief. I still have to take action. I still have to do all that, but that's another conversation. My question, and I want people to understand this that are listening, the only way you will ever change your belief is to get new information. That's the only way. There is no other way. So once you agree, hey, I agree with that. That makes sense to me. Okay, and by the way, doesn't make it true. I just strongly I haven't discovered another way, but until someone does, that's why I'm saying, hey, tell me another way. I'm open, but I've never discovered it in 55 years. The only way to change a belief is to get new information, and that new information will allow you to change your belief. So now, if people say, okay, this is starting to make sense to me, I want to change what I'm getting. Well, then I got to change what I'm doing.
Correct.
Okay,
that's action.
If I want to change what I'm doing,
right,
then I got to change what I believe, because the reason I do what I do and choose what I choose and act like I act is my belief system.
Correct.
So in order to change the belief system, then I need new information. So
and then I go back to the beginning.
Okay, like, so then I ask people, if that's agreeable, then how come you're not seeking new information every day voraciously? Why are you not scouring the earth for the information that you need? You need new information. That's why my mission is to get the information from the people who have it to the people who need it.
You are correct. And on this one part, you're right. I will just never say you never need more information. That's never going to be my stance. So I agree. The answer. I agree the answer. The answer is you need to know the answer. You need to know. Now, what I do is teach people how to solve cubes. Now, you're right. You need to I know what the cube's supposed to look like. I know the answer. I need more information. This is what it looks like. I know the answer. Now we have to go. What I do is let's take the time to figure out what's in the way for you solving the cube. You know what the cube is supposed to be, but how do you learn how to overcome these obstacles? How do you learn how to problem solve? How do you learn how to handle objections when it comes to taking risk? How do you learn how to make adjustments and adaptability when you've never learned that skill before? So how do you learn that? And let's fast forward those things. This gets into practical application of the new information. And that's where I say, let's solve the cube, not just talk about the answers. And I think we're agreeing. I just think there's more than one step.
There's again, yes, there is. There's a million but there's a million ways to skin a cat. But you've already acquiesced to the fact that the only way to change your belief is to get new information.
I agree. I agree and expand.
Yeah, but again, come back to me if you can think of another way.
There's a lot of these topics I think we would love to have, because there's a few of these ones where I'm like, I'm also very open to a better way. Just on this one, I'm very open to. I do agree with you. How do you make a new decision if you didn't know one existed? You need the information for sure. You can't make a choice that you don't know exists.
You can't change your belief without new information.
Correct. And you can't change your beliefs without removing a limiting belief, which gets back to the action of choice. You have to remove an old belief to apply the new information. If you never do, it's just a wasted information.
Won't argue with that.
Yeah. And so this is why I say I agree with you. It's just another step. The application of information. I agree very much. You need information, but you got to do something with it, or it's a waste of fucking time. No different than you and I doing what we're doing. People don't understand. Maybe look like to people who are untrained, this seems like an argument or a debate. No, this is two people who understand their shit, who are just aggressively agreeing. This is the way that I see it. It's a beautiful thing if you understand it. Some people are like, these two have too much energy.
No, I believe based on the exchange, I've learned some new information, and I'm going to use that new information. However, I also believe that you might have gotten either new information or a new way of looking at the information that you already had.
Of course.
Because at the end of the day, if we were to rewind and listen to what I said was there's only one way to get a new belief, and that's new information. And any listener out there, I would love for you to reach out to me and DM me and find me another way, because I'm open to realizing, wow, I totally missed that option. Yeah. Because I'm looking for options to change my belief. The reason why I want to change my beliefs is because whatever my belief is what's limiting me to attaining more, to reaching my potential. There's some information that I don't have. That is why I'm not where I wish I was. Mm-hmm. It may be information that I'm never going to get. It may be information that I'm going to get tomorrow. But at the end of the day, every day I'm seeking new information. I'm reading books. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm hiring coaches. I'm hiring mentors. I'm listening. I'm paying attention. I'm actively seeking new information. There's a lot of people out there, Rick, they're not doing that. You know why? Right. Because they don't realize it. They don't understand that simplicity. You need new information, brother. Go crack open a book. You want some suggestions? There's a million suggestions out there. Those are subjective. But the bottom line is, the truth is, there's information in those books. And you need new information. That's a fact. That's the truth. That is not an opinion. That is the truth. That is
I agree.
That is fact. Okay.
If you were doing steps, step one, I agree. Need new information. Do I believe that's all you need? Is like, that's it? No, I think there's just more steps.
That's all you need. That's all you must have. That's all you must have.
When you're working through anxiety and depression and suicide and PTSD and the things that people have to overcome in this day and age, especially if I work with the soldiers and I work with the people who are deep, like new information isn't the only thing that they need. They need an application in a new way. And rewiring a belief system isn't only informational, because people who are in analysis paralysis because of information overload. They have all the answers and never even attempt to start a business. They're still reading about businesses and never go and do any of the things like grow, challenge, fail, and do any of the parts for step 4. They don't even get to it.
Do you think that's because of their beliefs?
I think everything is because of beliefs.
Thank you. And the only way to change those would be new information.
We need step 1, get new information. And I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying step 2, step 3, step 4, and then you can do it. You have 5 steps. I am agreeing step 1 is get new info.
New information. You got to have it.
Yeah. So we're agreeing aggressively, and I love it.
And hopefully you got some new information here. Now, when it comes to depression and clinical depression and all of these things, listen, I don't claim to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist or an expert in that field. I personally um, believe that there's such a thing as depression.
There is.
But I also believe that depression is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, self-inflicted.
It is.
Yeah. So to me, when it boils down to it, and again, there's more steps, but just keep it to the simple. Why? I believe in simplicity, man. It's just the easiest way to understand.
Well, simplicity is genius. I agree with you on this. Now, I do the trainings for how to beat depression and anxiety, and it's holistic. It does work too.
Hey, and by the way, that's another thing I would advise people. Quit trying to figure everything out for yourself, dummy.
It's already done.
You don't need to figure it out. Someone's figured it out, brother. What you need to do is listen and get new information so you can change your beliefs. And it might be Rick that gets you to change your belief. It might be Brad Lea. It might be freaking Zig Ziglar. If people that don't resonate with you probably aren't listening to you.
You are right.
There's going to be people that listen to you that think I'm just a blowhard know-it-all and I'm arrogant and I was rude for arguing and I was
wrong.
And that's fine.
No, Brad, my audience is going to be like, these two are doing the same thing. I love it.
Yeah, but my point is,
my audience will like it.
My point is you could get 10 people to say the same exact thing.
Sure.
And there will be people that do not believe 9 of them because they don't resonate with that person. And for whatever reason, they're not accepting it. But when one person shows up and says it the right way at the right time, all of a sudden, that person's the genius, when in reality, they were all saying the exact same thing. You weren't listening. You weren't paying attention. So to me, when someone says, well, Brad, how would you cure depression? Obviously, there's some techniques. I would say, listen, number one, get some help. You can't figure it out for yourself, obviously, or you wouldn't be depressed.
Agreed.
I don't believe that depression is not real. I believe that it is real. The question is how do you fix it? Well, in my mind, you would fix it with a decision. You decide to no longer be depressed, and technically you wouldn't be. But you're saying, well, no, because of their synapses and the relays and all that. Yes, they've been in a habit for so long, they cannot just make a decision and change. I would agree. There are people that it's not that simple. Why? Because they're so ingrained in their nonsense.
Yeah.
So
apathy is a very it requires intervention at the point of apathy. So it's very difficult to do. It can be done. It just takes years on your own.
Yeah, but my suggestion to people that think they're depressed or are depressed, I'm not discounting that they are or not. I'm saying the people that are depressed in the world, my advice to them would be find somebody who has helped people through depression and listen to their new information, get their new information. And if that doesn't work, believe that there is a solution and keep looking, because it might not be from Rick. Maybe Rick's beard psychologically turns you off because your dad, who was abusive, had a beard. And so now you believe that it's not possible because you're not listening to Rick because he has a beard. Well, guess what? Go find another person then, because the truth is there is help. There is information that could fix you. There's information that could make you successful. There's information that could make you freaking happy in your marriage. There's information that would make you anything you want to be, but you have to get the right information. And sometimes it has to be from the right person at the right time.
Big wisdom right there. Listen, you dropped the bomb noise.
And I don't really coach people. A lot of people think I'm out there in the coaching space and the masterminds and I sell courses. Listen, I have a software that helps people do that. And because of that, I've created a few, so I wasn't a hypocrite. I'm not going to tell you how to do something if I've never done something.
Agreed.
So I do it and did it for reasons like that. I don't care if anyone ever buys my course. Yeah. I don't care if anyone joins my real coaching, which, by the way, it's called real coaching because it's in my opinion, it's real coaching. Like, I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to make you do it. I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not going to show up at your house. I'm going to give you the information. You got to do it. And by the way, that's part of my coaching. Of course. I can show you how to get what you want in life. I can show people how to make more money than they're making. And again, based on what? Well, again, I can't show someone that's making $700 million a month how to make more, because I haven't even made that yet.
Right.
But I can show the average person who's making 80 grand a year how to make 300, how to make 500, how to make a million, how to make 10 million. But they may not believe me. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's not the way or one way, because there's a lot of ways. So my point is, I'm not a coach and a guru. I'm not a guy that's out there teaching people and working with people for a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
You are. So
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, well, who would I rather hire as a coach, me or Rick? Well, I would say Rick. Why? Well, because, dude, this is what he does day in and day out. This is what he sharpens his axe on. This is what he investigates and eats and breathes and sleeps in. I don't.
But I've never made anybody $1 million in a month, so I'd be sending them to you.
But I help guys like you get your information out. Why?
Yeah.
Because I know that there are people that don't know who you are.
Correct.
That if they got your information, it would fix them. Why?
Pull them out of hell. Yeah.
Because all they need is new information. They don't have it. So that's why when people say, well, why is your mission get knowledge from people who have it to people who need it? Because that's all they're missing is the information. Now, I will also add to that. Of course, they got to take action. Well, guess what? That's part of the right information they need. But they need information, and they also need relationships. There's reasons why people aren't winning. And I believe that it boils down to two very simple ones. You don't have the right information, and you don't have the right relationship.
I agree.
It might be the relationship you have with yourself that's lacking. Go fix it. You might need a relationship with somebody else. But if you knew the right people, you'd have everything you wanted. If you just knew the right people. So if you want to correct that and simplify that, I need new information and I need new relationships. So guess what? Start getting a relationship with yourself and other people. Start introducing yourself. Yeah, but I don't know what to say. Get some new information on how to introduce yourself. Start building your self-worth. Start working, brother. That's what it takes. Mm-hmm. Work. You know why they call it work? Why? Because it works. At the end of the day, you're going to be uncomfortable. If you're afraid to be uncomfortable and you're not willing to be uncomfortable, then you might as well take off the jersey and sit out the game.
Agreed. Let
the players play. But if you're going to raise your hand and tell me you want this and you want that, and as soon as you find out how to get it, you're like, oh, I don't want that. That's fine. You don't need to want that. You can want whatever you want. But I'm telling you, if you want something you don't have, get the right information and get the right relationships and you will have it. And that's the bottom line. If I had a bomb, I'd drop it.
I'll do it for you. Wisdom. Heard. Well done, man.
Thank you.
Love your passion, bro.
And by the way, I have 5 minutes to a hard stop. So
let's call it. Brad Lea, thank you for being on the show. If you were to direct anybody for anything, or if you wanted to help anybody, what would you recommend they do? Should they click on your things, buy your program? What do you want them to do? Anything?
No. What I would do is I would go focus on yourself. I would make yourself the most important person in your life. And I would start seeking information and building relationships. And the most important relationship, I think, is the one you have with yourself. You're not going to increase your net worth if you don't increase your self-worth. You're not going to increase the fulfillment and joy and you're not going to get any better until you get better. Yeah. So start with yourself. Go build yourself. Go work on yourself, and the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Correct. You want to change the world, change the way you look at it.
Yeah, and if I can help, man, hey, dude, follow me on social media, dude. I'm dropping this kind of nuggets every day. Relationships, business, life, sales, whatever it is I know that I think is valuable, I'm putting it out there for free.
Hell yeah.
Now, if you like that and you want to buy my course, I have a course on sales and then business and life. So it's coaching and sales training. That's all it is. But I do have businesses and opportunities. So if someone's like, hey, Brad, I need an opportunity. I need to learn and have you hire me to make better money. Dude, I got opportunities coming out my yin yang.
Sounds good. Brad Lea, such an honor, bro. Thank you so much for being on the battlefield of mind, man.
Let's do it again. And next time you come to town, dude, let's argue on my podcast.
Let's do it, man. Hell yeah. Thanks a
All
lot.
right. All right, man. Thanks.